It's one of the greatest scenes in college football, and the players made sure to feed off the energy of the whiteout.
I just stood there for a second and just looked up and just did a quick 360, and it felt just wonderful.
Made even better when the defense posts a whiteout shutout.
When you're playing a team like Iowa, you can't get bored of grinding it out.
They grind the Hawkeyes into submission to finish off yet another Big Ten opponent. The fans wear white after Labor Day, and we talk about foot fashion. Why some of the top players in the game are part of an exclusive Cleat Crew to raise money for Children's Miracle Network hospitals across the country. It's time for Nittany Game Week. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Nittany Game Week. I'm Todd Sadowski alongside our coaching staff over here on the show, former Nittany Lions assistants Jay Paterno and Tom Bradley. We are now 4 games with 4 resounding victories and a slight move up in the rankings, guys, to number 6 in the country.
Well, they've taken care of business, and that's what should happen. And, so people are starting to recognize it right around the country.
They're doing a great job. You can see them developing from week to week, and they're putting. A lot of guys are getting involved in this right now.
There's not much higher you can go, so you need somebody to get knocked off on top of you in order to climb up those rankings. Number 6, pretty good at this point in the season. Well, the defense completely controls the Hawkeyes. The offense continues an impressive streak, and one of the assistant coaches has somewhat of an unusual night in our opening drive. This is the longest tenured coach in the Big Ten. Kirk Ferentz had that face basically all night, frustrated and puzzled. The defense pitches a Big Ten shutout. How'd they do it, Tom?
There were no big plays. Plus, the offense was on the field most of the game. They were only in the field 42 plays.
Less than 15 minutes, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's great.
97 plays by the offense and the turnovers. You know, when a ball goes off a guy's back on a punt, that you just erase
That's not
the
a
possession.
good night. That's a bad night.
Yeah, they took away the run early, and they were able to come right after him, Tom.
Sure did.
So the Nittany Lions defense now 3rd in the country in yards per play, 1st in yards per game. The message from defensive coordinator Manny Diaz is simple. They're not just trying to stop the offense. The defense is out there to make big plays.
Don't overthink, don't try to be perfect. And then once everybody started doing that, you just started to see, turnovers happening, everybody celebrating together. You just started to see the chemistry, the brotherhood we had.
Now, Chop and the D-line benefit from a secondary that blankets the coverage for that extra half second to a second that you need to get home and wreak havoc in the backfield.
No question, and I think one of the things that happens is when Iowa doesn't have anybody open downfield, the quarterback's holding the ball. Next thing you know, they get to him and they harass him.
And they're getting there with 4 guys. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, don't even need the blitz pressure to help. Now, look, it's become pick your poison for the Nittany Lions opponents offensively, guys. They've scored 30 or more points now in 11 straight games, Jay.
Yeah, they're doing it off. The last 2 weeks have been off turnovers. 37 of their last 61 points have come off turnovers, and that's been a big factor for an offense that maybe doesn't have the explosive plays. They're taking advantage of those opportunities that they're getting from the defense.
That's why you're playing good team football right now. And they're feeding off each other. You're getting the turnovers then turn into points.
11 straight times you're a defensive coordinator. You know your offense is going to score 30 or more points. Probably feeling pretty good about it.
It's a real nice feeling. If you knew that on the bus trip over,
that was par for the course, Tom. I mean, what are you talking about?
I make the bus ride over. Very nice.
That's a little bit of a luxury for sure. Look, they're still waiting to bust open a few more explosive plays, but the guys understand the balance they present is impressive.
That's how we look at it, too. Obviously, Drew, he's been doing a good job. He can throw the ball. The type of receivers we have, Dre, Steve, Trey, I can name everybody on the receiver roster. And the line, they do a great job blocking up front in the trenches and stuff. So we can do anything, really, for our offense.
Now look at this hookup between Aller and KLS on this fade route. 4 touchdown passes for Aller, all under 10 yards. That's effective red zone offense when you create enough room to complete passes in the end zone from short distance. And Jay, you watch the Iowa game and then go back to a game plan from Coach Yurcic's first season. The rapid fire, fast pace. I know it's different personnel, but the evolution of the offense since he's been here is really interesting and dramatic.
Well, I think what you do is you adjust the talent that you have, and right now you got a young quarterback. You got a defense that's getting you turnovers, so you can control the tempo of the game. Take your 4-yard play, your 5-yard play, get to 3rd and 1, and then they're going for it on a lot of 4th down Saturday night, and they're making those as well. So they're in a mindset of we're going to control the tempo of the game, and it's worked so well so far.
Patience is a virtue.
And communication between the coaching staff, Tom, the offense, talking to the defense. What's the game plan against this opponent?
Well, what happens is, as you get going in this week particularly, you're going to want to control that ball because Northwestern's going to throw it. They're not going to be able to run on this team.
And Iowa is a unique team that calls for a unique approach. Afterwards, Coach Franklin used a few adjectives you don't normally hear to describe the play selection.
I thought Mike did a really good job of calling the game and not getting bored against an Iowa defense who's damn good, and not get bored of the plays that were consistently getting us 5 and 6 yards and coming back to them. Don't get bored with them. Keep coming back to them until they've proven they can stop them.
Boring and patient, a winning formula in this case. Both coordinators have been outstanding the first 1/3 of the year, which means both will likely be in high demand from other programs. A look down on the field, Andrew Callista gets a little different perspective. He hears and sees what goes on during warm-ups. He was also at that 2021 game in Iowa City. Let's just say some words exchanged back then came back to haunt the Hawkeyes.
The whiteout is in the books. What did we learn? Well, Iowa's offense is putrid, downright bad, and the Lions did what a quality defense should do: dominate. Let me show you Iowa's lone highlight. Yep, this guy dancing in the stands, just enjoying the whiteout vibe. And speaking of Hawkeye fans, they actually served as motivation for the Penn State defense after PSU players were booed out in Iowa City when they were injured in 2021.
We definitely took the disrespect from what they did in 2021. We didn't take it lightly, and we kind of been preaching that all week of just, this is personal in a way, in a sense. So that kind of put a chip on everybody's shoulder.
Well, Coach Kirk Ferentz said back then Iowa fans are smart and they know what's up. Well, Kirk, they want changes. They're not happy. Penn State fans are happy, and they should be. Look at that smile on Manny Diaz's face after his D pitches the shutout. In the post-game tunnel, we got high fives, autographs, and selfies. They always make for a fun night. 4-0, still room for improvement, but an unblemished record is nothing to complain about as we hit October, a time of craziness and the best month of college football on the calendar, guys.
Thank you, Andrew. Still to come, they were able to rally to defeat the Golden Gophers. Our coaches scout the next opponent, Northwestern, how the Wildcats' active linebackers could make a difference against Penn State's offense. Nittany Game Week is coming right back.
Opening Drive is sponsored by your local Ford store. Visit buyfordnow.com today.
And welcome back to Nittany Game Week. Been a weird offseason to say the least for the Wildcats of Northwestern. In July, Pat Fitzgerald was let go as head coach. After 17 years, 11 current and former players came forward with hazing allegations in the program. Now, the interim head coach is David Braun, who's also the defensive coordinator. The Wildcats rallied to beat Minnesota to even the record at 2-2. Time to break them down as the Nittany Lions head to Evanston for their third consecutive game against the Big Ten West, guys.
Well, Northwestern is always a tricky place to play, especially 11 o'clock in the morning. And Northwestern last week kind of found their stride in that fourth quarter. So it could be, they could be a different team than we've seen the first 3 weeks.
You just came off of a whiteout, and now you're going to go to Northwestern. There will not be a lot of people in those stands.
No, not at all. Let's take a look at them offensively first. 24 points a game, 98 yards a game rushing. So obviously you got to take away the pass. Turnover margin is -1. Now let's take a look at some of the keys here. Third downs are 47%, third in the Big Ten, which is a good number. Red zone, they are top 10 in the country in converting those touchdowns. Pass game, and then they're going to attack the whole field, which we'll talk about. Let's take a look at the first thing we want to talk about. We just mentioned they'll attack the whole field. Here's a middle of the field, what we call a triangle read. 1, 2, and 3, and they're going to isolate 2 guys there, Tom, and that's always tough for your linebackers.
We talked about this earlier. There's always somebody in the middle of the field in their pass game, somewhere, somehow.
You're going to see the tight end come up vertical, guy comes underneath. The back, they draw those 2 linebackers underneath, and now that's there. So they're going to challenge Penn State's linebackers in the pass game with routes like this and triangle reads and go through the middle of the field. Let's take a look at the next thing we want to talk about. A.J. Henning is a transfer from Michigan, number 6. He's a wide receiver. They try and get plays out of him. He's getting 3 to 4 carries per game in the run game, 4 catches per game in the pass game. So, Tom, you know when you got a guy like that, you got to know where he is.
Everywhere he is, you better know where he is the go-to guy in this offense. He's not wearing number 6 for a reason.
Because he wants to get
It's
6.
6.
Yes. So again, here's this jet sweep. But again, look for what they try and do with him creatively. Not really been explosive so far this year, but a guy they're going to try and get the ball. So let's take a look at the next thing. They're not afraid. Now, in the red zone, we talked about how they are 83, 84% converting touchdowns in the red zone. And one of the reasons is they're not afraid of throwing into tight windows. So here is a tight window, switch route to get your corner off your best wideout, Tom. And you know that's a pain for these guys when you run those switch routes.
Especially what's happening underneath, you know, who's got who and what coverage you're in. It can be a lot of problems.
And that wideout number 17 had a big night the other night. They kind of found their rhythm. He had 215 yards receiving, so he's a guy to keep an eye on as well. Let's talk about them defensively. Points per game, 25.8. They give up a lot of points. 6th in the Big Ten in pass defense. That's their best stat, so not a great defensive unit. But the guys that you got to look at are in the core. The 2 middle linebackers, Gallagher is top 10 in the country in tackles per game. Mueller's active, and both those safeties are really good. But let's talk about the active linebackers. Seems like Northwestern's always had pretty good linebackers. So Gallagher underneath Mueller, they attack the line of scrimmage in the run game. But Tom, here in this one, you're going to see how disciplined they are in the pass game.
They're very disciplined in the pass game, and one of the problems they don't have right there is very average up front.
Yeah, they got to get better. To have a chance against Penn State, they're going to have to do a better job in the pass rush. But I would expect them to play a lot of zone against Penn State in the pass game. They come at you with a 2-safety high look most snaps. What you want to look for is when guys blitz, who fills the safeties, what are the corners doing? And if the corners come up and try and jam Penn State's wideouts, Penn State's going to have to attack these areas, which they have not done a lot of yet this year, Tom.
Yeah, you're either going to get the 2 shell or a quarter shell. That's what they like to play.
And with Allar's arm strength, he should be able to thread that ball into that zone area, and that's where the dead spot in that coverage is going to be. In third downs, they are pretty good on defense against third downs. They like to play some man, so you'll see some nickel come on. Here is a bunch set, 1, 2, 3, and this is a little bit of a lesson for you. A lot of different ways to defend the bunch, but here, he's going to wait for the inside guy. He's going to wait for the outside guy. He's going to wait for the high guy, and then he got help.
Yeah, it's just different ways to play it. You can play it this way. You can play, a lot of people will stab 2, and then you'll switch off 1 and 3. Whatever you want to do, stab 1, depending on how you want to play that configuration.
And it's a good way for them to handle the crossing routes that Penn State likes on some of those third downs underneath. They've thrown a lot of things underneath this year.
One thing this team needs to avoid is overconfidence. You could forgive them if they go to Evanston feeling really good about their play. They're destroying conference opponents and are more than a 25-point favorite in Evanston. Wildcats can sling it around the field, and the Nittany Lions pass defense, well, they're going to be ready.
We just got to make plays in the back end. Obviously, being sound with how we line up to that stuff. Obviously, the team we played last week, it was more of a stop the run mentality, and we bring that mentality into every game. But we just definitely have to be more sound in our coverage.
The pass defense was solid against Illinois. Special teams will play a role in the game. Here's Jacobs with one of his 2 fumble recoveries against Iowa. That one was on the punt return. Up next, our Impact interview with ESPN sideline reporter Molly McGrath, why she's a part of a college football Cleat Crew and how she moves so fast for these post-game reports. And don't forget to show us your pride by submitting your Nittany Game Week Pride picks on our website. Could be at the tailgate or rooting on the blue and white, from home, kids, pets. We want to see them cheering on the Nittany Lions. Send us your pride picks at NittanyGameWeek.com.
Impact Interview is sponsored by the Pocono Mountains, where small-town charm meets big adventures. Book your trip today by visiting PoconoMountains.com.
Welcome back to Nittany Game Week. Our Impact interview is a special one. It's ESPN sideline reporter Molly McGrath, and Molly has worked with Todd Blackledge, one of our favorites, of course, 1982 national championship quarterback for Penn State. So by extension, Molly becomes one of our favorites. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate the time.
Todd Blackledge is the absolute best. He's a legend in every way. I'm so lucky to know him and to have worked with him, and I'm going to continue to be one of his biggest fans with his work at NBC. And you guys know he's one of the best people in the world. But thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt. I hope you were able to go out on some of the Taste of the Town shoots with Todd in the past. But so look, we have a two-parter about footwear to get started, okay? And one of the main reasons we wanted you on is to talk about an awesome promotion with the Children's Miracle Network Hospitals, the Cleat Crew. But first, we're going to show some video of you just sprinting out to the middle of the field and to do a post-game interview with the coach. And we were impressed with the speed and especially the conditioning as you just made the turn, get ready for the camera, and you're not even out of breath. So please start there before you go into the Cleat Crew, Molly.
I think people should be most impressed with the fact that I'm wearing high-heeled boots on that sprint. And can you imagine how much faster I would have been able to go if I had been wearing cleats, if I'd been maybe wearing some Cleat Crew cleats for that? But yeah, I said to my husband after, I showed him the video and it's like blown up. And I said, I have quick burst, but I don't have endurance. I wouldn't have been able to do that run for a long time. Like for a mile, no way, but a quick burst to get the coach. I'll do anything to get the interview on time. That was at West Virginia against Pitt. I thought maybe the West Virginia fans were going to rush the field. And so I knew that I needed to get to the coach as quickly as possible, right off the handshake, so that I didn't lose him in a sea of people. So that's why I was, running so aggressively. And then, yeah, you kind of have to run for it and then completely bring your composure on and be composed and ready to go on television. But it's something I'm used to at this point. I basically run like that for almost all of my post-game interviews, because if I don't get the interview in time, we go off the air and my interview doesn't make the air. So it's kind of just something I have to do. I've just been conditioned over many years as a sideline reporter to get that done. Another segue to footwork, I'm working with 7-Eleven for their Cleat Crew. It's a really cool thing. This is the first time this has been done in college football, to have players who are able to design their own cleats, and they're working with the shoe surgeon who has done cleats, or he's done cleats for athletes. He's also done shoes for LeBron James. He's really famous. He does an incredible job, and he's making these one-of-a-kind cleats for these athletes. It's like a work of art, how beautiful these are. And then the players are able to wear them and then auction them off. And you can have basically this like work of art that your favorite player has worn, and all the proceeds are going to Children's Miracle Network hospitals.
So, Molly, you started interviewing people when you were still in college in BC, and you really worked your way up the ladder. For younger people that are watching, how important was it for you to be willing to do the hard work and get the reps that really help get you established and still help you constantly improve today?
You guys know it's a grind. And I think you have to be willing to do the hard work from the early parts of it all the way until you're where I am and beyond that. I feel like the best people in this industry who have career longevity and who are able to cover things like national championships and Super Bowls are the people who never stop grinding and never stop working and treat, a top 5 game assignment, like a top game assignment that weekend, you treat it just as you would, a high school game. I just think you have to bring that same passion into it.
Ollie, Tom Bradley, everybody talks about the coach's work week. Can you tell us about your week, how you go from Sunday through Saturday?
Yeah. So my work week kind of starts on Sunday, so I have a game every Saturday, and it's usually a Saturday night game. We'll do a primetime game. And so I'll come home first thing Sunday morning on a usual week. And I'm just waiting at my computer to get the email for our game assignment. So we don't know our game assignment every week until 6 days before the game. So we find out every Sunday what game we're doing that next week. And if I'm on a plane, I'll start the research right there, and I'll be, exhausted from the night before, but I'll start looking into the players that I need to speak with, who the sports information directors are from each school. And I'll reach out to the SIDs either on Sunday or first thing Monday morning and say, hey, can we get on the phone to talk about your team? What makes this group special? And can I put some player requests in? And so from there, I just start my prep and like looking into everything about the team and the players that I want to speak with. It's a lot. I've said to my husband a lot this season, especially now that we have 2 children. I've said, I feel like I need 1 or 2 more days a week for this prep. I'm cramming up until game day, and it feels truly like I'm cramming for a test. And it's the kind of test that you don't want to fail, right? Like you don't want to fail on live TV. So it's worth all of the prep and the cramming, but man, it is a grind to get to Saturday.
Hang with us for a minute. We're going to step aside for the TV show to take a break. We will continue our interview, so if you want to see the entire conversation with Molly McGrath, make sure you go to NittanyGameWeek.com for that interview, along with other web-exclusive content. And we still have a player or players to recognize with our scrap medal. In a shutout, you have to make the pick on the defensive side of the ball. We're heading into the final minutes of Nittany Game Week.
Scrap Metal is sponsored by the We Are In, voted #1 game day restaurant in Center County. Follow us on Facebook and visit thewearein.com or call for dinner or room reservations.
I know we only give the scrap medal to guys that play in the game, but this guy suited up like he was ready to play in the game. Pat Romano with a white outfit that is Dumb and Dumber-esque, like Lloyd Christmas.
I think he should wear it more often.
That's a good look for you,
Yeah,
Pat.
it's a nice
Looking
look on
great.
him.
We see
it really
you.
is.
All out for the whiteout. And it's time for the scrap metal, Tom. This week you're going with an entire position group. The defensive line sets the tone against the Hawkeyes.
Shutouts are always a thing of beauty. You don't see a lot of them nowadays, and those front four, they set the tone for this football game.
No doubt about it, especially within the Big Ten Conference to get the shutout, and they didn't just get home. They knocked the ball away and forced some turnovers. In addition to a television show, we're bringing Nittany Lions together with our depth chart at NittanyGameWeek.com, connecting businesses that support the show with our viewers. Our goal is to build a team that keeps the hometowns strong. And if you haven't noticed yet, we cannot fit everything into a tiny little neat 30-minute window. So we got a lot of college football stuff to share with you. Make sure to check out NittanyGameWeek.com for web-exclusive content. We finished with some pride picks. We had a bunch of them come in after the whiteout, so check them out on the website. If you don't see yourself here, we appreciate you sending it in. We finished with some spirit. For Tom, for Jay, I'm Todd. Thanks for watching Nittany Game Week. We'll see you next time.